Welcome into CHGO Tavern Style, presented by Salerno's Pizza. Head over to their Grand Avenue location and call 312-666-3444 to make a reservation today. I'm Jay Zawaski from CHGO Blackhawks.
And I'm Nicholas Moreano from CHGO Bears.
So, a little bit of a different tavern style today. We were discussing what to talk about, and I was inspired by your picture on Twitter this week of you seeing, it looked like you were at some sort of shopping mall, and there was a picture of an escalator, and I think your comment was just, nope, something along those lines after what happened to y'all in Milwaukee. So it got me thinking, things that have happened to us in our lives that have triggered new fears. And I have several. So I'm going to give you the floor first with your escalator fear, and do you think this is a permanent thing for you?
Yeah, so for those who don't know, at the end of the Cubs-Milwaukee Brewers game, an escalator malfunctioned, and a lot of people were on it, including myself, and going 3 times as fast as normal speed. And I think for me, seeing the escalator, that was, I think, the first time I had encountered an escalator, these evil escalators for the first time, and it was actually stopped, so it was just stairs at that point. But I did go down it with my fiance. But I just took it really slow. Yeah. And that is now, I think, going to be a new fear that has been unlocked from the incident at the end of the Cubs-Brewers game, just because, I don't know, I just feel like, is it going to collapse again? There's all these different scenarios, but there's not as much people. There weren't as much people at that mall, but I definitely was hesitant and I had to rethink it. I was like, what? This is actually happening, but that's definitely one of mine.
Yeah, I mean, it just happened, so it's understandable. There's some PTSD. So I know you just got engaged, by the way. Congratulations.
Thanks so much.
One of mine it was more actually for my daughter. When my daughter was 2 or 3, we were on a vacation in Yosemite, and she got out ahead of me, and she's like, I want to show you something. Follow me. And just went down like 30 or 40 stairs, like right in front of me.
Oh, no. So
now she's 14, and she was fine. Because she just went limp and she had a bruise on her neck and somehow she was fine. If it was me, I would have died 6 times on the way down. But to this day, she's 14 years old. And I still, if we're going downstairs, I will step in front of her and go down ahead of her. Because that's a big fear. Because what happened to her. But for me personally, I'm terrified of possums.
Okay.
Possums. So I came home one day in high school and I didn't know what it was. I thought maybe it was a cat on top of our fence. We had like a big wooden fence. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to, I was in high school. Testosterone was out of control. I'm like, I'm going to show this thing. So I took a bat and I gave it probably like an 80% swing to knock it off the fence. And it just like turned to me and just went like, and I don't know if you've ever seen a possum's face with the black eyes and the sharp teeth.
And the tail is like,
oh my God. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I never want to see one of those animals again in my life. So if you're ever trying to terrify me, please don't. But possums they're my biggest fear. If I see them, I get like sick to my stomach and like startled and warm. It's a bad feeling when I see one of those things.
So if they're
possum is a dead possum.
If you happen to ever see like a trick-or-treater in a possum costume, that would just be the worst thing.
That's a little better. It's not like, some people are like that with clowns, right?
Yeah.
But it has to be a real, actual possum. It's to the point where if I drive by a dead possum, I kind of like taunt it, like, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you deserve that.
You had it coming.
Another fear of mine that I kind of knew I had a fear of needles.
Okay.
But I tried to be, just a good person in high school. We're donating blood.
Sure.
Go down to the gymnasium, try to skip out of a class too, donate blood. All the nurse did was she pricked my finger and a little bit of blood comes out. And then all of a sudden, I'm getting lightheaded.
Oh,
they're like,
man.
Oh, you don't look so good. Put me on ice. Put me on this like reclining chair. And I'm there. I skipped class, but I didn't know that it was in that moment where needles are just not my thing. And I have tattoos and everything. It's just not the same thing, though. Because anything that gets near like the veins and stuff, and I have like veins that you can easily like put a needle in there, draw blood. Cannot do it. I get immediately like woozy. I almost want to like pass out. So if I see
know that feeling, yeah.
Movies where like there's a lot of blood involved and stuff, like that will also get me going or get me, not feeling in the right direction.
So Steven is just pulling up as aggressive pictures of possums as he can find.
I was getting the thumbnail ready, and I just realized it's a hissing possum that is just staring at
Thank you very much as I relive my trauma. Yeah, so it's interesting because with the tattoos and everything. So is that when I was a kid, my mom would always like overhype a shot. like, okay, like you got to be brave. It's going to hurt. And so I would get all worked up about
Yeah.
it. And by the time I was at the doctor, they'd have to like straitjacket me to give me a shot.
Yep.
So eventually I was having one of those days. I'm screaming and yelling. I'm real little at this point. But, you know, the doctor's, and he's like, Jay, I already gave you the shot. And I was like, really? And like from that day on, I've been totally fine with it. To this now, when I actually watch them do it, or when I don't want to make it pass out, but when I get blood drawn, I'll actually like watch the process. I don't know. It's
You're a brave man.
I just kind of overcame it because I had that one experience where he's like, look, it's not a big deal. And that's kind of the facing the fears thing, right? Is the best way to overcome it is to face it and realize, I don't know if I'm going to cuddle a possum one of these days, but yeah, no, I'm not into that.
No, and I don't know if I'm going to willingly, like, I'm going to go down every single escalator I find just to make sure I, get over this fear. But
I mean, what are the odds that it happens to you twice in a lifetime? Pretty low, I would say, but now we're tempting fate. So let's not talk about that. Hey, head over to our friends at Salerno's Pizza on Grand Avenue or call 312-666-3444 to make your reservation today. Awesome tavern style pizza, thus the tie-in, tavern style. The other thing too, I hate being startled, which is why I'm not like a horror movie guy. Because now it feels like every horror movie is just jump scare after jump scare after jump scare. And this all came back to you, and we have a big age difference between us. Do you remember the game Perfection?
I do not.
Okay,
Nope.
so it was a plastic board game, I guess, and you would push this board down, and you had a bag of shapes, like a star, a moon, a circle, a square, rectangle, octagon, and you had to like fill in all these. You had to put the appropriate piece in the appropriate slot within the allotted time, and if you didn't do it, the plastic board would go boom and pop up and like pop all the pieces out. That game is 99% responsible for my anxiety, and I hate it. I hated it. I hate it to this day. I hate being startled at any time. I like scary movies. I can handle all the gore you can throw at me, but if something pops out at me, I'm done. Forget it.
Okay, board games. I'm going to go to something that's kind of recent for everybody here, especially in the Chicagoland area. I don't like cicadas.
Oh.
I don't like cicadas, and I'm a big, like, I grew up with my uncles having tarantulas.
Wow.
We had like snakes. I used to catch snakes in my backyard. Like all those things. I figured out like cicadas are just not my thing. They're just big.
They're a nuisance.
And their eyes are all beating red, and they're loud. And we were at covering a Bears practice, and they were all flying all over the place. Like trying to cover the practice and swatting out these cicadas. Like just not my thing. But yeah, it's another new fear.
Well, I had to, as a softball coach for a bunch of 14, 15-year-old girls, I had to be the calm one about the cicadas. So I again, mind over mattered it. And I'm like, all right, these things aren't going to hurt me.
No.
So one of our players like, Coach Jay, you got a cicada on your shirt. And I was like, I literally just grabbed it off and just like set it down. She's like, how'd you do that? I went, it's mind over matter. Don't let it bother you.
You just got to face your fears and grab one cicada at a time.
Yes,
that's how you can do that.
Nope, I will not be grabbing possums, though. That's for the record. All right, that's been CHGO Tavern Style. Thanks for checking it out. Make sure you hit that like button on YouTube and subscribe to our YouTube page as well.
We all silly like the mayor.